Hey everyone, Bandit here. Welcome back to the channel. We're back in Microsoft Flight Simulator. And for today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the iFly 737 MAX 8. It was released about a week ago as a pre-release purchase for $69.95 US. I purchased this aircraft with my own money, so it's not a sponsored video via iFly. And all opinions in the video are my own opinions of the aircraft. So we'll start off with the question I posed on the thumbnail was, should you buy this aircraft? Well, in my opinion, if you're planning on purchasing Flight Sim 2024, it's going to include a stock 737 MAX 8 as a default aircraft for all versions of the sim. So in my opinion, for most people, it would probably be worth waiting until you purchase that sim and then see how that aircraft is. I'm anticipating it will be a bit better quality than the original Sobo released aircraft, seeing as working title is going to be responsible for a lot of the functionality of the new MAX 8. So you should be able to confidently fly that airplane from A to B, but I haven't personally flown it yet, so I won't know for sure. But the new sim is only less than a month away, so definitely worth waiting for most people to see if that aircraft's going to be suitable. If you're not purchasing 2024 and you want a MAX 8, well, definitely this is a great aircraft to purchase. It's to the level of PMDG quality of aircraft. It's by not all means bug-free, and remember, this is a pre-release version. It's not the final version, so it's not perfect, but it's pretty good quality. And if you even if you're purchasing 2024 and you actually need a MAX right away, well, definitely worth purchasing, because this is going to be flyable in 2024 as well. So it most all likely will be a higher quality aircraft than the default MAX. So if that's what you're looking for, then there's no problem purchasing this aircraft right away. And why have we seen this released as a pre-release? I think personally it's just a bit of a cash grab by these companies like Aerosoft, trying to garner some money before the new sim comes out, because this is going to be a default aircraft in the new sim, and like the Aerosoft release of the 330, that is going to be a default aircraft in the new sim. And so I think you're just seeing these companies try to earn some sales before the new sim comes out, because they might not earn as many sales of these aircraft for when 2024 is released. And okay, that's okay. We saw with the Aerosoft product, it wasn't very well received. This product is pretty good quality though, even though it is a pre-release, and it was released as a pre-release because it is not perfect aircraft by any means, but still very, very usable aircraft in my opinion. So if that's all you're waiting to find out, well, you can stop watching here, but if you want to see how the airplane performs, just continue watching. And I'm going to take it on we're here in Toronto, I'm going to take it on a quick flight from Toronto to Ottawa, and we'll put it through its paces and see how it performs. I will state before we get going too, I did have some initial issues with this when I first got it. It was mostly due to hardware configuration issues, and the first few flights I did in this airplane, it was completely unflyable. The plane, when I turned the autopilot on, it had difficulty maintaining the LNAV track, and the auto throttle wasn't working very well, and I had to troubleshoot. I had to go in their Discord, do a bunch of troubleshooting. Turns out I had to set some dead zones on my joystick. I had a new joystick that was working great with all the other products, and it didn't have any dead zones on it, so for some reason I needed set a dead zone of 3% at least to make it function properly. And also I had some access control issues on the Honeycomb Bravo throttle for the flaps and the spoilers, and they were interfering with the auto throttle, and it would cause the autopilot to disconnect, and it was just horrible. First two flights were horrible, and took a bit of troubleshooting to get it fixed. But once I've got that set up, and those issues are going to be addressed in the next release, I hear. So for anybody purchasing this aircraft, it should be fixed in the future. yeah, so anyway, overall, otherwise, though, it's been a pretty good product, and we'll see that when we take it for a flight. So if you're new to the channel, thanks for joining me. Take time, hit that subscribe button, sign up for notifications, and you'll see videos like this when I put them out in the future. And yeah, so without further ado, let's hop in the cockpit and get this Boeing going. Okay, we're here in the cockpit, and before we get going, I'll just make a comment about the modeling and texturing of the aircraft. Overall, the cockpit looks great. All the switches are fully functional. Circuit breakers are not functional, but that doesn't really bother me. You never use them in real life. The cabin looks amazing. Don't go back there very often, but you can open the bins. I'm not going to go back there and demonstrate everything, but you can open the doors from inside. You can arm the doors. You can use the washroom. It's all modeled really nicely, and you can see this Air Canada livery has custom livery for the aircraft there. So very nicely done inside the cabin, and the chairs move, arms move. Great modeling throughout. You can move the brake pedals, adjustments. You can open the windows, and to close the window you have to unlock it there and close the window. Yeah, everything functions. The sounds are great too. That's another feature of this aircraft. The sounds are awesome. There's a few minor issues with the sound, but overall, I think it sounds great. I'm going to give the modeling and the texture easily a 9 out of 10 for this aircraft. Really looks great, even outside. I'm not going to go outside right now, but the aircraft looks awesome from the outside as well. Okay, so we're cold and dark here. First thing we'll do is get the tablet up here, and we'll put some ground power on. And we'll go to the system page, and we'll go ground support, and we'll just add some ground power. And we already have our chalk sense, so we'll set that. Remember, you always have to hit set when you change something on there. And we got ground power available now, so we'll turn our battery on. And we will turn on our ground power. Might as well get our IRSs lined. And I'll get the APU going now while we're on here, so we'll turn on fuel pump number 2. The APU to start, and this is pretty normal with the APU. There's no gauge here for temperature. Just have a low pressure light comes on until the pressure comes up to high enough to extinguish it, and that's all you're going to see. And you're not going to know the APU is available until you actually see the blue light come on for your APU source there. Okay, so we'll let that get going, and I'll go back to the main page here. We'll talk about the rest of the tablet there in a little bit, but that's all we need to do right now. This tablet, just mention that I think it's a stock Boeing tablet. I've never seen one in real life, but it's kind of interesting, but reminds me of the built-in tablet of the 787, but it's pretty good. It has a lot of functionality to it. Okay, so next we'll come down, and this aircraft has Navigraph and SimBrief integration, which is nice. It doesn't have complete SimBrief integration, and we'll talk about that as we get going, but we'll start off with the FMC. We'll go to the ident page, and with Navigraph information, we have the latest AIRAC, and it's valid till October 31st. And we'll go to the position page, and then we'll select the GPS position, and we'll set that in. And then we'll go to the route page. And here we can request our flight plan, and you can put your SimBrief information in the system page under ACARS. That's where you enter your SimBrief information. And our flight plans come in, and we can load that in. I'll just bring up our flight plan here. We're doing Air Canada 124 Toronto to Ottawa. And you can see Air Canada to Toronto. So we'll put in our flight call sign, ACA 124, going off runway 23, and route is just direct L sub, so we're doing the Verdo 7 departure, L sub capital 5 arrival, so we'll activate, execute that, and that's enough information, and then we'll go to the perf page, and we'll sit there until we're ready to do some more stuff. So that, now that we have the basic flight plan in, it allows us to do some more stuff in the tablet for the setup with weight and balance. Okay, so we'll do that now. So we'll talk about it on the main menu. It just has a video where you can look at the video. I'm not going to cover off everything in here today. We'll initialize the flight. You have an airport map function. So once you've put your flight plan in, it'll shows Toronto here, and it has Ottawa available too. And this is the only moving map portion that works. The moving map doesn't work with Navigraph. It only works on this airport. So we can zoom in here and we can see we're at gate 135. We're going to be taking off runway 23, so we're going to probably head out, taxi up here to runway 23. So that's the airport moving map. Not sure what the range rings are. Oh, yeah, some range rings on there. Okay, so we can go back to the performance. We'll talk about that in a minute. Terminal charts, we might as well set up that now. So we've already entered in our FMS status, so we can just select the airports from the FMS, complete that, and then that gives us our Toronto, Ottawa airports. You can add an alternate here if you want to. And then Toronto, the only chart that's going to come up is the ground chart initially, and then we have to add the rest of the chart, so we have to do that, edit our clip. So we select Toronto, edit clip, and then we need to add a departure. So we'll go to the departures page, and we're doing the Verdo 7 off of 23, and then we're doing the capital 5 for runway 32. So we'll go to the Verdo 7 for 23. We'll select that, then we'll go to the arrivals page, and we're doing the sorry, we're not doing an arrival in Toronto, we're doing it in Ottawa, so we can just complete that because that's all we need for Toronto. So we have the airport and departure there, and then for Ottawa we have the airport there, and we'll edit this clip, and then we'll do the arrival. So we're looking at the arrival, we're doing the capital 5, and then the approach is going to be the RNAV Yankee 32. We'll complete that. So there's our plates for Ottawa when we get there. So again, at the airport, so like I said, there is no aircraft ownership on these charts with Navigraph. It doesn't show our position on here. If somebody don't see anywhere to set that, you can set like a night mode, rotate the chart, but I don't see anywhere where it says to show your aircraft position. So yeah, I'm not sure if you can do that anywhere. Haven't seen it in the settings. If anyone has seen that, let me know in the comments. And yeah, we're going to be we're parked right here. We're going to taxi out Alpha Kilo Alpha to hotel for runway 23. Look at the departure chart. Might as well just brief that while we're here. So we're taking off runway 23. We'll zoom in and read the departure. So off 23, it's climbing heading 237 to 1100 feet. Right turn 245, there's a sign, expect vectors to Savre. And if we zoom out, we can see the route here. So 237, 245, radar vectors to Savre, Seakick, Verdo, Agna, Bell Sub, and initial climb will be 5,000 feet. So that's the departure. So while we're talked about that, we might as well load that in. So the departure, Toronto. We're going to be doing the Verdo 7, 23, L sub transition. Execute that. We'll go to the low legs page. So 237, 1100 feet, right heading 245, radar vector Savre, Seakick, Verdo, Agna, Bell sub. So that's all good. So we'll go back to the route page, and then we'll put it back on the perf net, and we'll leave it there. So that's our departure. If we have an engine failure, we'll just, for this runway, it would just be straight ahead to 1,000 feet. We'll stay VFR, we'll clean up the aircraft, and then we'll deal with the emergency, and we'll return back to Toronto for runway 23. So that's our departure briefing. And the next thing we can do is load the aircraft. So you do that in the tablet. So we go back to the main menu, and that is another, before we get into the performance, I'll just talk about the other items on the air page here. So you have the ident page, which just shows the current aircraft we're flying. System page, this is where you do all your ground support where you added the you can set your ACARS information for your sim brief information. You got that's just sim brief right now. That's the only functionality. You can control your doors. You can refuel the aircraft from here. You can use ground support, which is all your nose pin, gear pins, electric power, pneumatics, all that stuff. You can do pushback from here. I just use GSXO. You can save and load panel states, I believe, and you got a failure section, and I haven't really looked into that very much. Panel states is the main settings, so you go through here, and there's a whole bunch. There's so many, I'm not going to cover them all. It's like PMDG, where they have 17 pages in the FMS there of options and stuff like that. It's similar to this aircraft, very detailed. Just general though, you want to make sure your metric US. There's 3 variations of the engine, different thrust settings. So this one has the LEAP 1B28, and I have my nose wheel steering set for independent steering here. So different settings you can go through. One I will talk about though is the autopilot settings. I disabled IAN, which is integrated approach navigation. That's not a feature I've used. Well, I've used it on the 787, but I haven't used it on the 737. And so I've just disabled it here. And I don't think it's very common on a lot of 737s because a lot of airlines fly older NGs as well. So I don't even know if you can get that option on the NG. There's lots. I didn't even realize till about 10 years ago that there was so many options that you could purchase for even the NGs back in the day. I remember when I went onto the 787 and the features on there, I go, these are amazing. I wish they were on the NG. And the guy at the Boeing training facility said, well, yeah, a lot of them are available on the NG. You just have to pay for them. So as Boeing makes new features, I think a lot of them can become available on various 737 aircraft. So anyway, I have that disabled in here. I'm not going to go through all the setup in here. I've set it up kind of familiar to how I'm used to the airplane being configured, but like I have the heading select on takeoff mode as opposed to wings level. So just so many different options, and you can see you got options for the PFD, the ND, the multifunction display, ground proximity, runway awareness advisory. So this, I've got it on. It's just interesting. I don't think it's very common, but it gives you warnings when you approach runway, and we'll see it when we taxi out. I'm not going to cover it in detail here. But yeah, so many options. I'm not going to go through them all. So go back to the main menus, and then the last thing on here is the performance, and that's what we're going to do right now. So there is no sim brief integration with weight and balance. So it goes up to the takeoff performance. Initially, you have to go set your weight and balance first. So we'll get our flight plan information, and we'll get our payload. And we have 167 packs, so we'll go to packs here. We'll just put that in, and it distributes the packs throughout the plane. Cargo, we have 7350, say, so I'll just split that up. I'll put 35 in the front and 3850 in the back, and then we'll look at our zero fuel weight is 139.3, close to that, 139.3, so it's pretty close. So we'll set that payload, and now that is set in the aircraft, and then we need to do our fuel. And our fuel, we need 10,264, so we'll just put in, I usually go a little bit over, so we'll put in 10.4. And you just put it in the total, and then it'll distribute it appropriately, so it's got 5,200 in each main tank. And if you had more, it would fill up the 2 main tanks and then put the rest in the center. And you can see our takeoff weight, 149.1, and we have 149.7, so that's within 1,000 pounds, and that's pretty good. So we'll accept that. So we'll set our fuel, and fuel and packs are set. So we'll just complete that, and now you can see we have our takeoff weight and our CFG there, and then we'll do our takeoff performance data. So the reason to put your flight plan in the FMS first is so that when you're here, we'll set the altimeter first, so we'll just use the B key, and then when you copy FMC data, it's going to copy everything from the airplane, including the current altimeter that you have set, the outside air temperature, and the winds. And that's pretty close to the forecast Toronto winds temperature. So we'll just look at the weather here. and it was 29012. They got, it's gone up a little bit. So 28015 is pretty close. 54 degrees. They got 12 degrees Celsius. That's pretty close. And 3029, and they have 3030. So that's pretty close. So we'll accept that. And because we had the flight plan loaded, we got Toronto off 23. There's no intersection information. You can set your condition. We're going to be dry. And there's no optimum selection up here, so you have to do your own D rate. So for this, I always select the highest D rate, max assumed temperature. Flap config, there's no optimum, so 5 is pretty common with the max. And I'll start with that. AC on, and anti-ice is off today. And once I've got everything filled in, you can get your calculate button and hit calculate, and then it comes out with your takeoff performance. So we got a D rate 2 with 38 degrees, and one should be 79.7 with our V speeds and our trim. And if this doesn't populate the V speeds, it means your D rate was too high. So all you need to do then is go select a lower D rate, so TO1 or TO, and then try to calculate again until you get V speeds show up, and then everything will be fine. Okay, now we've got our takeoff data. We'll go down to the FMC. We'll just call up our flight plan here. And we're on our perp page. We got 290 as our cruise altitude, and cost index is 30, so that's good. Zero fuel weight, because we have it in our our iPad already. We can just click that and it will populate the zero fuel weight. Reserves are going to be 4,334 pounds, so I'll just put 4.4, round it up. The top of climb cruise wind, so it's actually top of climb when you put in here, 303 at 74. And our top of climb temperature is minus 46. You can put either the top of climb temperature or the ISO deviation in here, so we'll put minus 46, and deviation's minus 3, minus 4, minus 3 is close enough. So we can execute that. So that's our performance page. Then we go to the N1, and we're going to be doing a DTO2 with a 38 degrees, and we're looking for 79.7. So TO2 with 38 degrees. And we got 81.4, 79.7, so it's a little bit higher on here. That's okay. We'll go to our takeoff page, and we're doing a flaps 5. CG, I just hit it. And you can see it automatically set the trim for me, a 6.53. That's a feature you can set in the tablet, but it's not, in real life it doesn't do that. So that's just a nice quality of life feature that you can have set in this airplane. And then we'll just highlight our speeds. So we got 42, 42, 48, 42, 42, 48. So that's our takeoff performance complete. Might as well put our FMC and our legs page over here. We got to load our departure. Or I think we did already load the departure. Yeah, we did. It's already there. So we'll go to the takeoff page here and the legs page over there. Okay. So I think we're all done with our setup there. Now we just need to do our flows and set up the aircraft. Okay, check the oxygen first. You can do a test here. And your emergency works as well. And then you can set your 100% if you need to. So initially we just make sure it's on 100% as opposed to normal, and then we can switch back to normal later if we need to. And then we'll go up to our overhead. We'll come down here, we'll get our yaw damper on. All these should be off. Crossfeed is off. We'll get all our fuel pumps on. And while we're here, we'll see our APU is available, so we'll put the APU on the gens. Come up here, we'll get our cabin utility and our in-flight entertainment on. And we'll get our window heats on. Anti-ice is off. We'll get our hydraulics on. And we'll come down here and we'll check our pressure. Pressure is waiting for it to get up to around 3,000 pounds. The quantities are a bit high, especially the A. Well, they're both high actually, but and then we'll close that out. Put the A pump off for the electrics, so we don't have pressure to the nose wheel. And we'll come down here. We'll put. Normally, you have to wait 2 minutes, so we'll say The APU's been running for 2 minutes, well, which it has probably. So we'll just put our packs on. So we'll leave that open. APU bleed. And we got bleeds on both sides. One thing I noticed is if I shut a pack off here, the needle should split. So I'm not sure why that doesn't do that, but anyway. Altitudes are set, and that's automatic from the FMS. It's not in real life, but it's a feature you can set in the tablet as well. Just a nice quality of life feature. It's on auto. We start with the switch here. We'll put our nav lights on. We'll come down here. We'll set our MCP, so we'll get our flight directors on. Course, I'll put 237 as runway heading. Here is 148. For our V2, we'll put the runway heading in here. And 5,000 feet. And here I'll put a reference of 245 is the heading we have to turn to, even though we're going to do an LNAV. So 245. Come down here, we'll reset our fuel. Put RTO. And normally, put this on the FO side for the start, and then this will stay on the side of the pilot not flying. So if the FO is flying, I'll move it over to the captain's side here. And if the FO is the pilot not flying, we'll leave it over on this side for the flight. And this gives the flying pilot a nice big nav display, and it allows non-flying pilot, who does most of the monitoring of the instruments, the engine instrument display on their side. But it always usually go on the start. For the start, it always goes on the FO side. But because we're operating single pilot in the sim and I don't have a real FO, I'll just put it on this side for the flight. Just leave it there. Okay, so that's set. Speed brake is down. Parking brake is set. Cut off on the fuel selectors. Stab trims are in normal. Comms, I don't need to set up anything in the radios. We're not going to use anything for today, and we're not using the radios. I'll just put a transponder code in here. It's on auto and TARA, so I'm assuming that's how, I don't have this type of transponder. I'm assuming that's how you would operate in real life. But if you're flying this plane on VATSIM, auto doesn't work. You have to actually turn it on to be seen on VATSIM. So just so you know, but I'm just going to leave it in auto. And our rudder trims are 0. So doors close and lock. And we'll run a before start checklist to the line. Okay, before start checklist to the line. So oxygen is checked. Iris mode selectors are in nav. Fuel, we have 10,400. We need 10,274, I believe it was. Passenger signs, yeah, we didn't get those on, so we'll put those on. See, I missed that in the flow, so that's, you do your flow, and if you miss something, that's just when you pick it up there. Window heat is on. Hydraulic are normal. Pressurization, we've got the packs on, bleeds on, auto, and the altitudes are set. Parking brake is set. Stabilizer trim cutout switches are normal. Rudder and aileron trim is free and 0. And departure briefing is complete. So before start checklist is complete the line. So I'll just call up for GSX here, and when that's set up, we'll do below line and call for pushback. Okay, GSX is almost ready, so we'll do our flow for start checklist. So we have the gliders are on, and the transponder, I'm just going to leave it in auto there. And they're ready to push back. So I'll call for the before start checklist below line. So FMC CDU is set and verified. And when airspeed bugs are set, doors and windows are closed and locked. Anti-collision light is on. Transponder is as required. And we're ready to push back. So they're ready to push back. So it'll be southwest.
Release parking brakes, please.
Okay, so I just make sure both A pumps are off. Parking brake is released. Oh, and need to go in the tablet here.
Release parking brakes, please.
It doesn't do this automatically with GSX, so you need to go to ground support, and we'll disconnect our ground power and our...
Release parking brakes, please. Commencing push.
There we go.
All engines clear.
Shocks.
Start at will.
Yeah, so GSX does that automatically for some airplanes, but doesn't do it for this one yet. Okay, so we're just pushing back. We'll just get a little further back, and then we'll start our start. I don't need these for, I'll put terrain and airport on. Don't need waypoints, so I'll do the same on the FO side. I'll make the display a little further out. I love this nice big nav display. Okay, so I think we're ready to start. So it'll be packs off. Engine start number 2. And we're looking for N1. And then we'll be looking for oil pressure. And then you'll see this motoring light comes on. And the motoring light or indication represents a system for the EECs, the electronic engine controls, to allow the aircraft to straighten the shaft between the compressor and combustion section of the aircraft. So if you have excessive heat buildup in the engine, like on a through flight on a hot environment, so it takes it could take up to 90 seconds of motoring for the shaft to straighten out. So that is complete. So the motoring goes away. We're at 25%, and we have oil pressure. So we'll bring the fuel up, and you do not need oil pressure until the actual start is complete, but it's pretty normal. Pretty normal to see it before you select the fuel selector. So parking brake. And then we'll just monitor the start, and it's a slow start on the max. You can, especially if motoring takes 90 seconds, it could take a full 3 minutes to do the start, and that's your start limit, is 3 minutes. And I've seen right up to 3 minutes on this airplane. Especially, like, I remember doing a hot turn in Las Vegas, 45 degrees. It motored for the entire time, or entire 90 seconds. So you're looking for 63%, and the starter should cut out, and then the switch goes to ground. And then you're waiting for this little hash tag here to disappear, and that completes your start cycle. So we have a good start on number 2. And then we'll start number 1.
Tow truck disconnected. Bypass pin removed. Left is clear, right is clear.
Okay, so we're accelerating and get the motoring up here again. One thing about the start is that when the start switch goes off, especially on a new airplane, it's a lot louder. That's about one of the sounds here that really doesn't jive. When I miss my Mercedes lights as well. Okay, so we're waiting for the motoring to go away. Okay, we have oil pressure, 25%. So we'll bring up the fuel on number 1. We'll just monitor the start. You can hop outside. Again, the sounds on this are awesome. Okay, so we're looking for a nice slow start. Temperatures get a little bit higher on the LEAP engines than the NG. We're looking for 62%, and then you should see so when we have 62%, the switch should click off, and like I said, it should be a little bit louder. And then we're looking for the red hashtag to disappear, and that represents the end of the start cycle. And then we're stable on number 1. So now we can head up top, do our flows. So we'll get the generators. Probes can go on. Get the hydraulics on. Packs, auto, APU off. Down here, we'll get the APU off here. Okay, the FO would get the flaps. And then we'll go to the system page. And we check our hydraulics are normal. And we have the flight control indicators here. I would say most operators don't have this, but while we're here, we'll do it. Check our flight controls. So that's good. We'll get rid of the system page. Start was good. We'll get reduce the engine instrument page. And we'll do a recall, and we'll request the after start checklist. So after start checklist, generators are on, hydraulics are normal, probe heat is on, start switches are off, APU is off, and engine start levers are idle. After start checklist complete. And we're ready to taxi for runway 23. So it'll be just out here off the ramp, first left turn out, and then alpha up to the for runway 23. So we'll get our taxi light on, park and brake release, and a little bit of power to get going. In real life, a lot of times idle thrust is enough to break away. Another thing I'll point out here too, like watch how fast it accelerates to 40%. When I put 40%, it's very quick. In real life, that wouldn't be that quick. It would take a good 5 seconds for it to spool up from idle to 40%. So that's not extremely realistic, but hopefully that'll be addressed in a future update. And then I'm back at idle now, and the aircraft should accelerate a little bit at idle thrust, especially when it's light and you're not going up a hill. And it will. In real life, flights I've done with this airplane, or sorry, in the sim here, the flights I've done with the airplane, it will accelerate as you're taxiing along. We'll see that here as we get on to alpha. Overall, I find the ground handling to be pretty good on this airplane. Okay, so we're see we're at 12 knots ground speed, so it should build up at idle thrust as we go along here. So we'll do our before takeoff checklists to the line as we're taxiing along. So flaps are flaps 5. So we got 5 planned, 5 indicated, green light, and it's in the 5 detent there. Flight controls were checked. Trim is 6.53 units. Takeoff data, we'll just check, set LNAV, and LNAV is armed. And recall check. Yeah, so we're just going to do an LNAV departure. Sometimes you'll see operators do LNAV VNAV or heading select VNAV departure. Different operators do different things. We're just going to do a normal takeoff in level change mode. So as soon as we gauge autopilot, it'll go to level change. Okay, so our before takeoff checklist is complete the line, and I'll check in with you when we get up short of 23, and we'll get going out of Toronto here. You can see it's accelerating here. So when you're taxiing along taxiway, it'll slowly, in real life, it'll slowly accelerate. Once it gets up to about 30, I'll just apply. So we'll say we got up to 30, I'll just apply gradual braking to slow it down to 10, and then I'll just let it accelerate again. You don't want to be continuously riding the brakes, otherwise that can heat up the brakes and reduce the efficiency of the brakes for reject takeoff if we need to. Okay, so I'll see you hold it short, and then we'll go from there. We're holding short of runway 23, and let's say we've been clear for takeoff, so we'll do before takeoff checklist. No line, so responder. We'll leave it in auto. And we'll get our taxi light off, landing lights on. And before takeoff checklist below line, flaps are 5 set, auto throttle is armed. The auto throttle is armed. Cabin notification is completed. Engine start switches are continuous, and transponder is set. Before takeoff check was complete. So for the takeoff, we'll get lined up. We've got a little bit of right crosswind. We'll advance the thrust to 40%. We'll engage toga.
Approaching 2, 3.
That's that runway advisory system. That's like I said, I got it on here just to show you how it works, but I don't think many operators use that in real life. But it's kind of cool. Okay, we're lined up.
Runway 2, 3.
And runway heading looks good. We'll advance to 40%. Hit toga. Say set thrust. The FO will monitor the thrust settings and call thrust set.
Approaching 1, 5, left.
And we have 80 knots. I think you can set that call out in the tablet. And V1. Rotate. Nice easy pitch up 10 degrees initially, and then positive rate gears up. And you can go to the flight directors. About 400 feet, we'll get the autopilot on with command indicated. And through 1100 feet, it should be going right-hand turn to, there we go, so just come up at 1100 feet AGL, and right-hand turn heading 245. We'll put that in our thing. Above 1,000 feet, we'll set bug up. And then we're above the V2 plus 15 caret, so we can select flaps 1. And one thing is this, the stall band, the 1.3 VS and the stall band don't increase that much. Especially when the airplane's this light, should stay down here quite a bit. Never gets that close to flap 1. We're above flap 1, so we select flaps up. And the non-flying pilot would call flaps up, no lights, and then we'd say climb thrust level change, and we call for the after takeoff checklist. And we'll say ATC clear. I'll leave that here. We'll level off actually, just show you how well the alpha throttle works for level off. Okay, so the after takeoff checklist, we'll just call for that. And I'm not going to speed up yet. We're going the wrong way here, so leveling off nicely, maintains the speed well. So the after takeoff checklist, air conditioning pressurization. So we do have our differential coming up and a little slight increase. That looks good. So pressurization is good. APU is off. Engine start switches are off. Landing gear is up. Flaps are up, no lights, and auto brakes off after takeoff checklist complete. So let's say we've been cleared up to 14,000 feet. We'll just go back to level change, and we've been cleared direct SAVR. So legs, direct SAVR, shows your predicted depiction there. So we go execute, and it's going to start a level change climb, and we're going to select. We're still in LNAV mode because we're in that on the departure. So, and we're LNAV into LAVR or SAVR. So that looks good. Just adjust our heading. So overall, the LNAV does really well in this airplane. Once I fixed the initial issue of the dead zones in my joystick, before I did that though, it was all over the place. But once I mentioned in the start intro there about setting your dead zones, and now it does a great job of tracking the LNAV. Nice day in Toronto here. Okay, so we're just starting to head in the right direction. I'm going to go VNAV. Or VNAV speed. And we're pretty light, so that's pretty reasonable climb performance for right now. Just getting into some cloud here. The temperature is -2. Oh, little sim connection lost there. So what we'll do is we'll go to continuous, turn the engine anti-ice on. And it's different than the NG. It doesn't have the blue valve condition lights. It just has the engine fail lights, and they go on momentarily and then off when they get the correct position. There's 10,000 feet, so we'll get our landing light off. And we will, pretty smooth, so we'll get our seatbelt sign off. And we're accelerating to our climb speed, so we'll go to VNAV, and it should be 286. And 286. So that looks good. And we can say we've been cleared up to our final altitude of 290. It's 290. Like I said, if I go back to the charts here, I got the chart up here. There's no depiction of where we are on the chart. Be a nice feature to have. That's pretty common on iPads today. You can see our top of climb there, and the banana bar, we got 270 set, so it's in the region of the top of climb. It's pretty good. Get above this little bit of cloud, and then we'll get the anti-ice off. Yeah, overall the performance for in the sim seems similar to the PMDG for frame rates and stuff like that. Haven't had really any major issues with it. Okay, I'd say we're going to be clear of the cloud for now, so we'll go to the engine anti-ice off. And engine anti-ice is off. Yeah, I forgot to mention up here, you should see TAI up here on your N1 displays, just above the N1 display there for each engine when you turn that on. We're just looking for a transition, and then we'll talk about the approach going at Ottawa, because you can see we need to top a climb. It's only like about 40 miles to our top of descent. Then we need to get going. We need more magenta line up here. Yeah, so we'll go back, we'll select Ottawa, and we'll load up the Capital 5. Get that ready. Zoom in a little bit here so you can see it a little bit better. Okay, coming up through transition, we'll set standard. Set standard. There's a function in the tablet where you can link these up so you don't have to do both sides, and then you can also, I think, link up this. And I'm just going to put it in inches and set standard there. So, yeah, while we're finishing the climb, we can talk about the Capital 5 arrival here. So we're coming in via L sub. It's going to go to Canuck at or below 230. For runway 32, it's going to be Lanner. at or below 16. And VISOL is only for runway 7 and 14, so those restrictions don't apply. Then Demco is 5,000 at 210. And then it goes to VOLAG and duct P for vectors after that. So that's the arrival, and then we're going to do the RNAV approach with links up at Demco, and it's a nice transition onto runway 32 on the RNAV approach. So look at that, that's an RNAV RMP, and we'll that's going to be our approach today. So nice approach for Ottawa. So we will go look at the RMP while we're here. So this will be the RMP runway 32. And so we link it up with Demco, and it's the same restriction at Demco, 210 to 5,000. And then we have Ludlax, 4,000 or above, Zorux at 3,000 or above, Vodul at 2,000 or above, and then Mixot at 1,400 or above. Then it's a 3-degree gradient path down to the runway from there on a track of 320. And this approach is going to be straight ahead up to Rathno, track of 320, and then 3,000 feet. Hold is published. Minimums, so you have two minimums here for RMP, 0.10, 0.3. So weather's not an issue, so we use 0.3, but you can get a little bit lower minimums if you use 0.1. But you need to be able to make sure that your rain prediction is going to be suitable for 0.1 if you're going to use 0.1. So yeah, this is a nice approach. Demco, nice smooth transition. You'll see when it's drawn on the ND, and makes a nice radius fixed turn around to the final on runway 32. So that's the approach we're going to be doing. So while we're still continuing the climb, we might as well load that in, and then we'll have that ready, because we're not going to be at the top of the climb here for very long. So we'll go to the arrival departure page, choose the capital 5 L sub, and we want the RNAV Yankee 32 via Demco. We can execute that. And now you'll see we get our rest of our magenta line there. So we'll go back to the legs, we'll verify those waypoints. So we've got L sub, Canik, 230 or below, Lanark 16 below, VISOL nothing, Ulagu nothing, Demco 210 or below at 5,000. And then it goes to VOLAG and duct T for a vector after that on a heading 140. And then we got the Disco for the approach, and then Demco 210 below 5,000, Udlax 4 or above, Sorex 3 or above, Vodul at 2 or above, Mixot at 14 or above, and then runway 32, and you can see the gradient path should be from Mixot to runway 32, so you can see it right there. 3-degree gradient path there down to the runway. And then we've got missed approach from runway 32 straight ahead to Rathno and hold at Rathno. And you remember it was track 320, as long as it's within a few degrees, that's fine. And so the legs are all good, so that's our approach. And then we'll do the rest of the setup here after we level up. Yeah, so as you can see, the plane performance, pretty much everything in the FMC we've done so far operates as I would expect it. And all the FMA functionality in terms of the autopilot so far is acted as I would expect it in real life. So it's doing a pretty good job. It's a pretty good quality airplane in a pre-release version. But I have come across some bugs, and maybe we'll see those today. So, Flight Sim 2024 is only less than a month away. There's 280 for 290. I'm sure everybody's looking forward to that. I don't know if you saw my video on the performance differences between, I ran the Alpha for a little while, and I know it was just an Alpha, but at least I know the performance for my system is probably going to be pretty similar. So if you haven't seen that video, just it was a previous video I just did, so just go back in my library and take a look at that. Okay, so we're level at 290. Let's check our pressurization. Differential's good. Cabin pressure's good. 290. Good. And we're on the, we'll go to the cruise page here. So we verified the legs already. So we'll just go back to VNAV. And there we go. Cockpit ascent is in 50 miles. So we'll finish setting up for the approach. So the course is going to be 320. It's a nice short flight to Ottawa from Toronto. So 320, the course is set. And then for our RMP approaches, you need to go in and go to the, we use the prog page 4. And this is your RMP progress page. And you can see your what your RMP is. So RMP is 2. AMP, which is actual nav performance. So this is required nav performance, actual nav performance. So right now our system is giving us 0.02, which is really good. And it's pretty normal though. And RMP of 2 is required for the cruise portion. And now you have down here, we've loaded the approach. So under RMP approach with RMP and vertical RMP, it should default to, for an RMP approach, of 0.3 and 400. So I'm not sure why it's not, it's just taken what our RMP is actually right now. But down here it should show what you've loaded up for the approach. And we want to do our RMP at 0.3. But if we were going to use 0.1, this would be 0.3. We'd actually have to change it to 0.1 manually. So even though we shouldn't have to change it for 0.3, we're going to have to change it. So put 0.3 and you select that up here. So now you see our RMP is 0.3. And vertical RMP, if you're doing a regular RNAV approach, you leave it at 400. But if you're doing a RMP approach, then you have to set it to 125. So 125 goes up here, and you can see we don't have our deviation scale here, but it'll show up when we start our descent. It should say 125 up here for RMP. So that's our approach for the requirements for the RMP. Go back to the VNAV page, and then we need to make sure both pilots are on terrain. And you can use the weather radar on one of the displays if you need to, but for the approach, for final, you should have it on terrain. And then we need to do our landing data. So we'll use flaps 30 today. It's a pretty long runway. So we'll set flaps 30. So VREF 30 is set. And auto brake, we're going to use auto brake 2. And we can do that calculation on the tablet as well. So I'll go back to the VNAV page. So we can go back to the tablet here. And we can do performance. And we can do landing data. And we can show en route. And I think if I go load FMC data, I should put Ottawa, runway 32, yep. We're going to have to put our own conditions in here. So condition will be dry. We'll have to get our own weather, so we'll get this. You can't get weather in the tablet here, which would be a nice feature to have, but I'll just take the path here from a while ago. So 280 at 13. 280/13. And OAT is minus 6 degrees, so we'll go to 6, and make sure you put a C if you're using Celsius. And the QNH is 3026. Okay, so that's good. We got our weight. VREF at 5, that's fine. Config, all up. Flaps, we'll do a flap 30 landing. Anti-ice will be off. Sorry, air conditioning will be on. Anti-ice will be off. Brakes, we use auto brake 2, we said, and no non-normals, none. And kind of cool to see you can get the non-normal because they're quite different. So it'll be interesting to try that in the future. And then we got the calc page, so we can see here landing distance, en route landing data for that weight, VREF 30, 147. Landing distance required is 6712, and we have a 10,000 foot runway, so that's good. So we'll just go with those settings. Go back to terminal charts here. We'll leave the approach there. So now we're coming up to the top of descent. So we just had enough time to set everything up. So let's do the descent and approach checklists. So pressurization, field elevation set for Ottawa. Recall is checked. Instruments are set and cross-checked. Landing data, and we don't need any minimums for that for right now because the weather in Ottawa was pretty good. It was broken a few 3,000, broken 5,500. So good visibility. So we've got landing data is VREF flap 30 and minimums not required. Auto brake is 2 and approach briefing is complete. And we're just coming up. It said reset MCP altitude, so that's correct because we're just coming up to our top of descent. So let's say we've been cleared down to 5,000 feet, which is the altitude for Dexot there. So we have VNAV path enunciated. As we approach the path, our VNAV deviation shows up on the right-hand side. And you can see here, it's in yellow because I set RMP 125 and our actual nav performance is 153 feet. And that's okay, and you can see it's yellow over here on our VNAV deviation bar, but that's fine. At having it yellow and having AMP exceeding RMP is okay when you're in the high level descent, and it's pretty normal to have that. As we get lower, the actual nav performance will get better, and it should go below the RMP, and then for the approach it should be well below the RMP, and then should be no problem shooting the approach. And then it'll look like this when we get a little bit lower altitude, so it's looking good. So we'll see how it does in the VNAV descent here. So VNAV path is enunciated. Now one thing, I don't know if this is an option, and I couldn't find it in the options, but on our aircraft we have a magenta speed band here for VNAV descents. And so basically it'll be a magenta line that goes down to about 10 knots below, and it goes like 20, I'm not sure exactly how much above. So you have this magenta line along your speed tape here, and when you're in VNAV path and you're on the path, if the airplane has to go faster to keep on the path, the speed will build up. But eventually you'll get to the top of the speed band, and if it can't maintain the path anymore within that speed band, it will default to VNAV speed. And you can see right now the auto throttle is armed, and vice versa. If the plane starts slowing down to maintain the path, then you will get down to the bottom of the band here, and the plane will add thrust to stay on the path. So this will go out armed into, I think it's FMS speed, to get back to the FMS predicted speed for the aircraft. So that's not modeled on here, and I've noticed on a couple of approaches or descents that it sped right up to the overspeed bars, and it stayed in VNAV path, and that's definitely not realistic. So that's definitely a bug with the VNAV descent. So we'll see how well it does today, but so I've noticed that with the aircraft. So if you're flying the Max 8 here and you start getting fast, just use your speed brake to keep that speed closer to the desired speed. Now, if it does get slow, the auto throttle will come up and keep this plane from going more than 10 knots slow, but it does not stop it from slowing down. So you can manage the speed usually with the speed brake if it goes too fast, and the auto throttle will correct for the low speed on the VNAV path. So it's doing pretty good. Let's talk about the speed brake real quick while we're here too. I couldn't set the speed brake axis because it was interfering with the auto throttle. So hopefully that gets fixed in the next iteration of the pre-release. So I just manually use the speed brake here. And you can see, because I use it, the thrust came up there. But if I use the speed brake, you shouldn't be able to pull it beyond the flight detent. And so that's not simulated properly. I shouldn't be able to pull it past flight detent. So. And thrust is coming up. Getting a little bit slow there. Another thing you can do to help out your descent is you can do a descent forecast. If I go to VNAV, forecast, descent, forecast I mean, and I can request the winds for the descent. And I believe it gets this from SimBrief, so we can load it. And we got transition 180, got our winds. We put in our altimeter, 30.29 I believe it was. No. Oh no, sorry. No, normally we have a place to put the altimeter in here. Maybe that's a different feature. Thermal anti-ice on, off. No, that's not. We don't have that on our descent page, so I'm going to erase that. Sorry, I could have loaded those winds with without the altitude, but without the altimeter. Anyway, I'll just do that again. So request. Yeah, normally we can just set the altimeter here. We don't have the thermal anti-ice on off location. So we'll load those winds and we'll just execute that. So we're back at idle thrust. Even though it says, oh, so it's FMC speed, yeah. So it's come up to slow down. So you can see it's trying to slow down as it got a little bit below the path here. So it's gone to FMC speed. And it's trying to catch back up to the speed in the path. So this whole VNAV descent is not modeled totally correctly, but it does a decent job. And hopefully it gets refined with the various updates. Yeah, so we can go to our nav display here. We can select the legs. We can step through the display here. And we'll just scale this out a little bit here. So you can see here we have coming into Demco. And then that's Demco on the arrival and the approach. And then when we're clear of the approach, we'll just link them up. And then we'll do a nice radius of fixed turn onto final there. Coming up to transition, so we'll set 3029, I believe it was. I'll just hit the B key when we get below. There's transition 3029 set. Now I'll just hit the B key 3030. Not bad. You can see that's taking us off the path a bit, and that's normally happens when you put a big altimeter change in like that. You get off your path initially. You can see how the AMP is opening up here. It's getting a little bit wider, and the lower we get, the wider these bars we get. Okay, yeah, so I'll go back to here. It does a radius of fixed turn. Now, this airplane does it really nice, and PMDG never had that feature. They just put it on with the latest update of the aircraft they've just released a couple of days ago. They never had this radius of fixed turn figured out for 2.5 years. It was out, wasn't working, but iFly's got it working on the initial release here, so that's great. PMDG would either just go straight line from fix to fix, or sometimes they put in simulate at radius the fixed turn to try to, and just be straight lines between those fixes. So it wasn't the greatest simulation, but they got it nailed here in iFly. So you can see we're getting to go a little bit fast here. And if this was in real life, there would be a speed band here. Once you got top fit, it would go to VNAV speed, and then you would get a drag required message. Go to legs page, yeah, so you should get a drag. It does pop up drag required messages, but not always at the when it goes 10 knots fast. It should pop up. Back to the that mode here. So we're coming in. Temperature is -7, so we'll put the engine anti-ice on. And then here you can see TAI on both your displays. Get our seatbelt sign on. Yeah, so I'll just pull out a little bit of speed brake, keep the speed under control here. And in the Max, this is the only fly-by-wire system in the airplane now. The old NG, it was a mechanical levers and cables between the lever and the flight control speed brakes, but now it's a fly-by-wire. So this is just sending a signal to the actuators for the speed brake. So the feel of the real speed brake is quite different than the NG. So you can see we got our drag required message there. So our speed is slowed down to 240. We're going below 10,000 feet, I'm assuming. We'll just clear the drag required message. Yeah, so you have to be very gentle in real life pulling the speed brake out, but it seems to work about the same in the NG for the sim here, because I'm not sure if you can really simulate fly-by-wire. Just getting to be a little dusk in Ottawa as we get there. So we might as well turn some lights on here. So we'll get our panel lights on. There we go. A little bit better. What we'll do is we'll do a missed approach in Ottawa too, and come back around for a straight-in approach. So. I know I'll make the video a bit longer, but if you don't want to watch that portion, you can just zoom ahead. Okay, so it's coming through 10,000 feet, and we'll get our landing lights on. Passenger signs are on, and we'll just do a 10,000 foot check. Altimeters 3030 set and cross check. Cabin notification is complete, and seatbelt signs are on. We're back at 240, so I'll stow the speed brake. So now we can say we've been cleared for the approach. So if we're clear for the approach, normally what you do is you take Demco, you can take either one, and you just bring it below Demco, and then it should cycle between Demco and UDLEX, which is the next fix on the approach there. So Demco UDLEX, and then you can execute that, and you can see now it joins up that approach. Put us a little bit high on the path, and that sometimes happens because it can have the effects of the continuation of the approach might not line up with the fix on the arrival. So we got drag required, speed brake out. Going to try to get back on path, and see, it should definitely go to VNAV speed in this situation where we're that high on the path and we're that fast. It should definitely go to VNAV speed. So I'll pull the speed brake out as much as I can. And you do see a speed or a path jump sometimes when you close up that discontinuity, but not as much as that. That was quite a bit. So I say that's the biggest thing with this airplane is the VNAV descent is not modeled to a complete level of the capability of the airplane. So the speed's coming back. Speed brake back in. There's 6 for 5. We've been clear for the approach, so we need to put a lower altitude in. So we normally set the field elevation, which is around 400 feet when you're doing LNAV VNAV approach. And you do that once you're on a published portion of the approach, and if it's lined up with the arrival, then you can do that as well. Otherwise, you would just set min sector till you cross Demco. So you set 2900 till you cross Demco, and then once you pass Demco, you could set field. But because we're on a published portion of the approach that's linked up with the arrival, we can set field right away. That's our company procedure anyway for doing that. So it's doing a good job. Just my heading here. Okay, we're going to be below 210, 5,000 at Demco, so that's nice. And I'll start putting out some flaps. So another thing is when you select flap, because we're in VNAV path, you'll see here, just watch the flap indication. So as soon as I select flaps now, flaps 1 appears and the speed bug goes right to flaps 1. But in the real airplane, it should pause for a little while and then it will go to flaps 1. So that's doesn't happen the exact same time you lower the flaps. But it should automatically bug that speed in when you're in VNAV path. And the speed window is closed like it is. Remember, you can always open the speed window and adjust that yourself if you need to. But I'll just leave it closed. And we'll go to flap 5. And you can see it just follows the flap setting, but normally it would just pause for a few seconds. And then as you start slowing down, it'll go down to the flap 5 position. So it does a pretty good job. Looks like we're clear of the cloud now, so I'll get the engine anti-ice off. Engine anti-ice is off. Yeah, it does a pretty good job flying the VNAV portion of the approach. And it's a little bit wide, but we're going a little bit fast, but we're slowing down. So you can see here, you need to stay within your course deviation bars, and this is based on your actual nav performance and your required nav performance. So it's staying within it, but it's getting a little bit off, so it's not perfect. Put 320 for heading.
2,500.
Okay, we'll get the gear down. Flat 15. And we'll do our landing checklist. Arm the speed brake. You can set up a button to arm the speed brake. A little bit easier than trying to do it manually. So landing checklist is the flaps. So engine start levers are continuous. Speed brake is arm, green light. Landing gear is down through green, holding at the flaps. Still staying a little bit wide there. See the runway. There we go. So remember the missed approach, we'll do it at about 500 feet, and it'll just straight ahead up to 3,000 feet. And you can see LNAV is already armed for the missed approach, so that's correct. We'll go flap 30. And it sets target automatically of 5 knots above, so that's 148. So we have a target is set. Complete line checklist. Flaps are 30 and green light. Line checklist is complete. So I'll just talk you through the missed approach real quick here. So the missed approach is going to be at 500 feet. I'm going to hit Toga. The autopilot should disconnect. And then the thrust mode should be go around, and we should see Toga for the pitch mode. And we should see go around. Go around should already be armed up here, by the way. But it should go to go around for the thrust setting there. And then the autopilot will disconnect, and then I'll have to manually pitch up. So it'll be go around thrust. So we verify the thrust accelerates and set flap 15. And on the positive rate call, we select the gear up and then make sure we have the missed approach altitude set. And then we'll call the roll mode, and then we'll retract the flaps on schedule at 1,000 feet. So 1,000 feet, this is when you reset your MCP, because now the airplane's for sure in approach mode. So we'll reset the MCP to 3,000 feet for the missed approach. So 1,000 feet. Call would be 1,000 feet. Checks at missed approach altitude. 3,000 feet set. See the 4 red bars, but we're on the path here. We're on the glide path. If you were doing this with the IAN approach, it would say final approach course would be up here, and glide path. Instead of a localizer would be localizer glide slope. So we're just coming up to 500 feet. And we'll get ready to do the go around.
500.
So go around thrust, flap 15, pitch up, cancel the autopilot, positive rate, gear up. We're about 400 feet, check our roll mode is LNAV. So we got go around, Toga enunciated, LNAV, that's all good. You can see, it should see go around over here. But we'll get on the command bars, and then I'll gauge the autopilot, and then it should switch to MCP speed, but for some reason it goes to control wheel steering pitch, so I'll just put it in a level change. But it did kind of flip the MCP speed before there, so then we're above 1,000 feet, so we can bug up. We're above the bug here, so we can go to flaps 5. And we're above the flaps 5, which disappeared for some reason. That should stay there until you select above flaps 5. Go to flaps 1. And we'll go flaps up. And you can see we've captured the altitude, so it goes MCP speed, L to acquire. And that's correct. And then the pilot not flying would call flaps up and light, and then we would say MCP speed, L to acquire, and then we do the after takeoff checklist. So the takeoff checklist would be air conditioning, pressurization, so that's all good for now. Is set, APU is still off, engine start switches are off, landing gear is up, flaps are up and the lights, and auto brakes off, takeoff checklist complete. Okay, so now we would continue along here. We go into hold if we didn't have any further clearance. We're just doing the published missed approach, but normally we'd talk to ATC, and then they just take us on vectors around for approach. So what I'll do is my heading bug lined up there, and they'll just give us a left turn 90 degrees. So I'll select heading select, and we'll just come left to 90 degrees to go on a base leg for the approach again. So now what we'll do is we'll do this same approach, except we'll just load it up by the straight in by Texan. So it'll be radar vectors for the straight in approach. So diversion, we need to do our diversion stuff first. So we're going to Ottawa, so we don't need to load that in. Ottawa is already in the route. Altitude is good. We can set our cruise altitude, so we can go. Cruise altitude's already set. Normally it wouldn't auto set to 3,000 feet, but might have to set it here. So it's set cruise altitude is 3,000 feet. It's good for now. Our altitudes are going to stay the same up here, so we don't need to change anything. We're not going to a different airport. And we're on radar vectors, so we don't need to load any fixes in the legs page. So all we can do now is go to the arrival departure page. And I don't think this would be active since we've completed it, so I'm not sure why. It's been a while since I've done a diversion in real life, but I don't remember it staying active. Same with the approach. We've completed the approach, so anyway, we'll select it again. We're coming in by Texan this time. We're going to load it. Go to the legs page, so we're still have RAFNO, which is the hold at RAFNO, and then we have Texan, Vodol again, 2,000 or above, Mixot, 1,400 above. So Texan, Vodol, Mixot, so they're all there. And then runway, free-to-re glide path down to RAFNO, straight ahead to hold at 3,000 feet. So those are all good. So now we'll go on a downwind leg, so we'll turn left to heading 140. Okay, so we need to update our init ref, so we'll just update that. Flap 30 again. We'll go back to auto brake 2. And we'll briefly approach, so it's going to be radar vectors for the straight in approach by, so we'll set an intercept course to either Vodol or Mixot. Probably Vodol if we're outside that. We'll probably be inside Texan here. So it'll be straight in approach. It'll be the visual backed up by the RNAV, runway 32. Same approach, same missed approach. And minimums we're not going to set because we're VF4. So if I zoom out, you can see it's loaded in here. And now we'll just do an approach checklist and then we're ready for the approach. Okay, so normally what you would do here, so we'll do the approach checklist again, so or descent checklist. So pressurization is set for land altitude. Recall is checked. Instruments, so we're set up for the same approach, so instruments are set and cross-check. Planning data is set the ref 30 and minimum is not required. Auto brake is 2 and approach briefing is complete for the straight in approach. So normally what you would do here is clean this up in the legs page. So we're going to anticipate getting radar vectored to Vodol there. So normally what you would do is you would take Vodol, bring it to the top of the first legs page, and then you can see how it's got a line direct Vodol, but then you will put an intercept course of the 320, which is the inbound. I'm going to put 319 because they're off by a degree, so I'll just put 319. And now you see it draws a straight line to Vodol, so it's got an intercept course, so you can execute that. But then what happens? Oh, it'll work this time. So giving us a new top of descent for so if we just turn base leg outside that. Last time I did this, it actually got rid of Vodol and Mixot, so hopefully it works this time. But that's exactly what it should do: draw the straight line out from Vodol, and then you turn inbound and intercept that LNAV track, and then once you get cleared for the approach, you just set field and VNAV, and then you're continue in just like you did on the original approach. So we'll see how this works. Yeah, last time it didn't work. So once I get out a little further, I'll turn base leg, start slowing down a little bit too. So you can see because I'm in altitude hold, not in VNAV pass, so when I select flaps 1, it will give me the flap 1 bug, but I have to set the speed myself because I'm in altitude hold. So we'll go out just a little bit further, turn inbound for the base leg. Yeah, I'm glad to see this is working now. Okay, we'll make a left turn. We'll go flap 2. Yeah, so I mentioned, like for the modeling and for the sounds, I give it a 9 out of 10. I'd say for the FMC and the autopilot systems, the functionality of the operation of the airplane, I'll probably give it an 8 out of 10. So as a pre-release, it's a pretty good product. So if you're not going to get 2024, definitely worth getting if you want a max, because you're not going to see a max unless you get 2024. But like I said before, if you're purchasing 2024, I'd wait and see. It's only a month away. I'd wait and see what the max is going to look like, and that might suit most people's needs, because this is $70 US. But if you demand that high fidelity PMGG type quality for a add-on aircraft, then even if you're getting 2024, this might be worth getting. So once we get a little closer, we'll just make our intercept. We'll get clear for the approach. We'll turn left. Heading 300. Or sorry, heading north. And we can get, let's say on that heading, we're clear for the approach. So once I'm on the heading, I should be able to select LNAV. And then that should arm, and then it should transition on to the LNAV approach. And then once I'm on a published portion of the approach, I can set field, elevation, and then VNAV, and then we're all set for finding the approach. Yep, so it seems to be making the turn. I'll set 320 as a heading. And let's set field elevation. Goes to alt hold. And if I set VNAV, should get VNAV path. And we should be able to fly the approach. So it turned a little bit fast there. So once we get close to the top of the set, the path should come back in here, and then we should just fly the VNAV path portion of the approach. So it's doing a pretty good job. Like I said though, there's something up with this, because last time I did this, when I did this practice flight, when I did the exact same thing, I set intercept course to vital. Actually, I set it at 320. Maybe it has to be the same inbound course that's depicted in the FMC. This time I did 319. But that should make a difference. So you can see it started the path now. So it started the descent a little bit high. And that's okay. We can be outside of here, but we should be back inside this band here. Like AMP should be within RMP by the time we get to the FAF. So it's looking good. It's coming in. Let's go gear down. Flat 15. And now you can see it's auto setting the bugs for us, because we're in VNAV path and the speed window is closed. We'll do the landing checklist again to the plots. So we got landing checklist, and start switch to continuous, speed brakes arm green light, landing gears down through green, we're holding it at plots. So we're right on our lateral and vertical indicators there, looking good. And we're just prior to Moxot there, which is the final approach course. Final, or the FAF. So we'll go flap 30. Sets our target speed of ref +5. We'll complete the landing checklist. Flaps 30 green light, landing checklist complete. So we'll just disengage the autopilot at 500 feet and carry out the landing.
1,000.
1,000 feet, check. We'll set the missed approach altitude. 3,000 feet is set. Getting a little bit high here. Oh, correcting. And we have the VASI showing 4 red, but that's not completely inaccurate. Sometimes the path will be a little bit different than the VASIs. There's your runway advisory system. Nice feature.
500.
Just 500 feet. Let us engage the autopilot.
$400.
And the handling of the airplane I find is similar to the PMDG.
300.
A little bit low.
$200.
Okay, I'll disengage the auto throttle.
100. 50. 40. 30. 20. 10.
A little bit off center line there. Okay, speed brakes deployed. Seems to decelerate reasonably. 60 knots. I'm on the brakes. Remember your auto brakes light is down there. Auto brake disarm. Bring it to a stop and exit right up here. Well, welcome to Ottawa. Yeah, there's some with the scenery here. It's got a big hill right on this turnoff here. So I'll give it a little bit of power just to get clear. See it go up here. I'll turn right here just to get up this hill while we got some momentum. Not sure why this is all of a sudden appeared in the scenery. I don't think it was there before. Some kind of bug in the scenery. We'll just stop here and do our airplane check. Okay, after landing, so we'll stow the speed brake. Bring the flaps up. Transponder, I'll just leave it in auto. We'll put the auto brake off. Rid of the flight directors. We'll get the APU going. We'll get the strobe light off. Oh, I forgot to put the logo light on. It wasn't quite dark when we went through 10,000 feet. Up here, we'll get our heat off. And we'll do our after landing checklist. So, stab trim. We'll actually reset it. Stab trim will be reset. Flaps are up, no lights. Speed brake is down. Auto brake is off. Transponder is as required. Probe heat is off. Start switches to off. And APU, when it's started, will be on the buses. And then it'll be in our after landing checklist. I'll just pick the gate here for GSX. And we'll start taxiing in. So we'll get our landing lights off and taxi light on. And this is a bug too. See the taxi light? For some reason, it doesn't illuminate. Unless I got the taxi light on, but it doesn't illuminate unless I right click my mouse button for some reason. So I'm not sure what the bug is there. So because of that, I've just been kind of turning my landing lights on to taxi around. Yeah, it's kind of a weird bug. And the APU started on the buses after land checklist is complete. Head over to our gate here, gate 18. Oh, no, gone too far. I'm going to select gate 22. Oh, it didn't even select gates. Gate 22. Sorry for blinding you with the landing lights there, buddy, but yeah, and that taxi light bug is mentioned on their Discord as well, so I don't know what causes it. Hopefully they get it fixed in the next update. Okay, I'll get the taxi light off, so parking brake we can set. We're on the APU. Go switch off. I'll put the APUs, or the standby there. Get the anti-collision off. The hydraulic pumps off. Window heat off, and then we'll come into the tablet here, go to the system page, and we'll set our ground power, get our electrical, and always remember you got to hit set when you change anything up here, and that's set. And then we'll request boarding or deboarding.
The boarding requested.
And we'll do our parking checklist. So parking brake is set, start levers are cut off, transponder is standby, anti-collision light is off. Oh, fasten belts, we'll get that off. Anti-ice is off, window heat is off, and IR selectors will leave in nav for now. So that's our parking checklist. Well, that's our flight in the iFly 737 MAX 8.
Passengers deboarding started.
Hope you enjoyed it. I think it's a pretty good airplane quality wise for a pre-release. As far as I don't know when the final version is coming out. I think they're going to put out one more pre-release version and then hopefully the final version after that, according to the Discord. But overall, I think it's a very good quality airplane for a pre-release version. Definitely worth buying. Not like the Aerosoft A330, which looked like it was a disaster. I'm not willing to spend any money on that. But yeah, if you really want a MAX now, I would say recommend go ahead and buy it. It's a pretty good airplane. It's only going to get better. But for most people, I'd say if you're buying 2024, just wait till that sim comes out and see what that MAX is like. And I'll definitely do a preview of that MAX when it comes out in Flight Sim 2024. So thanks for joining me. Hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did enjoy it, take time, hit that like, share, subscribe, and sign up for notifications. You'll see videos like this when I put them out in the future. And you'll see the default MAX video when I get that out down the road. Anyway, that's it for today's video. Thanks for joining me, and we'll see you next time on the Bandit Flight Simmer channel. Bandit out.